Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the Wrestling Classic. Justin here, back for the TWC Show. You are listening to the Wrestling Classic on Ruckus Avenue Radio. Guys, we are back on Dash Radio. If you have the Dash Radio app, check us out on Ruckus Avenue every Monday. But if you are subscribed to the TWC Show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can listen to us every weekend. This episode's dropping a little bit early because we got Survivor Series this Sunday, so we got to make predictions. But if you're listening for the first time because you hear about the predictions or you want to hear my thoughts about the releases, or we're going to talk about a little bit of AEW and we're going to talk a little bit about a debate that I'll get into in a second. But if you're new here because you came to listen to this for the first time, make sure you hit the subscribe button on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Stay up to date. Or just go download that Dash Radio app and listen to us every Monday on Ruckus Avenue Radio. Guys, there's a ton to talk about. I'm here with none other than Job It Here's podcast own, Sir Wilkins. How are we doing today, bro? I'm so glad you're on here.
I am feeling great. I hope all is well with everybody. I'm here to talk to my Canadian brother about everything, especially about his favorite Canadian.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. That's what I was going to say. We're going to have a debate about Bret and Shawn probably like in 10 minutes or so. We're going to touch on some stuff before that, but just to reference what we're talking about, for my Patreon users, I'll get a screenshot that I'll share on the screen in a second, because if you subscribe to Patreon, you guys get the TWC Show in video form every week, so you'll see what I'm talking about, but I'll read it out after. But we'll talk about the Bret and Shawn debate. First, before we even get to anything, this is your first time on the TWC Show, shockingly enough. We've known each other for years through social media. We followed each other. I'm a big fan. The one thing that makes you stand out to me, I'm a huge fan of those videos you do on Instagram and Twitter and stuff, where you're talking in the camera and you're giving your opinion and stuff, because you're very you stand your ground and you believe in what you believe in and you talk your shit, and I fucking love it. I wish I had the courage to do that online as well.
Thank you.
I was on YouTube one day and you on the YouTube things doing it there too. I'm like, he's everywhere I go. But like, and that's one of the same reasons why I really enjoy the I'm a big fan of the Job It Here's podcast, because even the clips you guys share on there about you guys having conversations, they're the most like sometimes unpopular opinions, to be honest. They're unpopular opinions, but you guys stand on what you are talking about, what you believe in. And I'm like, this is what the wrestling fans want.
And the thing is, if you have a different opinion, it's not a problem. Share your opinion. Tell me what your opinion is about. We can talk about it. Oh, you think Bret's better than Shawn? I don't believe it. So I had to throw that in there.
But it's true though. Not that Bret's better than Shawn, but that's kind of true. We'll get there. But I mean, like, it's true that like that's what the basis of the Wrestling Classic back in the day was. I was like, you know what, like, tell me if you feel this way, because this is kind of how I feel about wrestling these days. Especially, again, I'm not trying to say like I'm in the business per se or anything like that, but I've been doing this Wrestling Classic thing and engaging with wrestling fans and giving reactions and opinions about things for so long that. And just understanding the business a bit more. Like, you know, I've made friends with people that actually are in the business, that work at WWE, that work at AEW, that work at MLW, that work at Ring of Honor. Like, I've made friends with people that work in these companies. And then you hear a different kind of side of the business, to the point where I'm like, obviously I have my opinions and my thoughts about what's happening on television in terms of storylines and how the product is and stuff. But like, I'll never dislike wrestling. Like, I always just love the magic behind it. So no matter what I say or what I think, like, my whole goal is to get people to watch professional wrestling. So if I'm giving you an unpopular opinion or an opinion, we're keeping the conversation going so people will continue to tune in. I want you to tell me I'm wrong. I want you to tell me I'm right. I want you to disagree with me. I hate it, because there has been times where I feel like, with me specifically, because I'm a very positive person, I come off very friendly, which I am, don't be wrong, that people tend to just agree with me because they like me. I'm like, no, tell me you don't agree with me. Tell me I'm fucking wrong. And I love that, you know?
Yeah, it's I like the barbershop talk.
Mm-hmm.
I like when people just say like, nah, I fucks with this. Nah, I fucks with this. Or I don't fuck with this. And there's nothing, like I always say, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's just chop it up. Let's just talk about what we love and what we dislike. Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's scripted.
Yeah. And I always say, I'm like, the crazy thing about professional wrestling, I'm like, nobody, like, the only people that really bother me are the ones that think they're 110% correct. Like, nobody's right. I'm not even 100%. Yeah, it's an opinion thing. It's subjective. We all have different favorites, like different things about wrestling. wrestling has almost become as broad as music. Everybody likes different genres of music and different things. Wrestling's changed. There's so many different genres of wrestling now. There's deathmatch wrestling. There's AEW style wrestling. There's indie wrestling. There's WWE wrestling. Like there's different wrestling now. So it's like everybody's gonna be different. Outside of Jobber Tears podcast, is there any other shows you do? Or is it just that?
I have a couple shows are on hold. So I have this 2.5 Bros, just boys talking about their problems in life and stuff. I executive produce a female show called Sazone Talk, and I also executive produce a sports show called Your Sports Show. Yeah. So I do that and everything of that nature. Hopefully one day I go even into like primetime television or something.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
So, but right now that's all I really do, and I work closely with House of Glory.
I was gonna ask you about that because I saw that on social media. I got hyped. I'm like, wait, these are two people I know, and they're at House of Glory doing the thing.
Yeah. So I train at House of Glory under the Amazing Red.
Okay, yeah.
And it was the way everything happened was like, I always say closed mouths don't get fed, or if you miss the shots you don't take. So I've always had the podcast, and I've always been like, I kind of separate my training from the podcast because I don't want them to cross over worlds. Like I was like, sure. This is over here, this is over here. Let's just keep it that way. But then one day, I came to the owner and also like the owner of House of Glory. I was like, yo, I got this idea. How about this? And then he goes, nah, I don't like that one, but I got something for you because I know you do the pod. I know you do this and this. I got something big in the works for you. I was like, what? And I'm gonna tell you this right now. I knew nothing about it until the day of.
So what exactly was it?
He was like, you'll be a correspondent. Yeah. You and Sam will do backstage interviews. We'll do like a ESPN pre-show, ESPN after show type of thing with some of the talent that's here. And I didn't know I was doing all that until I got there. He's like, hey, get dressed. It's time to get to work. I was like, okay.
That's sweet. That's actually really dope. But I think there's a truth to that too, because like I think there's a fine line. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do believe there's a fine line between like you tell me like mentally in your own mind, because sometimes I get in my own head. That's what I'm getting. Like sometimes I get in my own head. There's a fine line of being too persistent and being annoying, and I don't know where that is sometimes. Like,
me either. Yeah. I was
like, I'll get a response, and the people will like hit me back later, or they'll be like, "Hey, we got you on file," and I don't know if I'm supposed to take that as a like, "Hey, leave me alone," or hit them back up again, maybe a month or two down the road. Am I being annoying, or is this me being persistent and consistent? I don't want to, because listen. I'm saying this. This is not a shot at any company or anybody specifically. I just want to make that very clear. But I do feel like maybe sometimes I rub someone the wrong way by being too persistent.
And I heard that. Yeah. So I was working on a deal about 2 weeks ago, whatever, and I reached out. I was like, "Yo, hey, we do this. How about me and you work with this?" And they called me in. It's like, "Yo, let's work this out. Send me an email with everything, all your breakdowns and everything." I sent the email out, and then the next day I text them like, "Yo, hey, did you get the email?"
Yeah.
And then they go, "It's Sunday. I'll talk to you tomorrow."
Yeah, and you don't know if you offended them, right?
And I felt like, and I was just like, holy shit, what did I do? Like, cause it's something I'm trying to work through. So then I called my homegirl who's like in the industry type of thing, like entertainment industry. She was like, yeah, you didn't offend them, but don't hit nobody up the next day like that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, cool. And then I waited like a week and I finally hit them up. And then, and it's like, and I have to understand that people don't work like me, where it's.
And everyone's on different schedules.
Exactly.
And what I had to learn the hard way is, and one of my best friends, I'll give it Sidra Sabzor, I'll give it a shout out to the realtor out here in the South area for luxury homes to check out. But she once sent me a video because I was complaining about some stuff one time. And it was about how to not take things personally. Like sometimes when someone reacts a certain way towards you, or they don't respond, or they give you like a weird response that seems kind of like a cold shoulder, like it's probably really not you, it's probably them. Like, don't take it personally. They're probably having a bad day. They're probably really busy. Something probably pissed them off prior. Like, if you take everything personally, it's effective. But if you don't take it personally, then like, you know, it won't affect you as much because like it's usually not you, it's usually what's happening on their end. And I thought about it on the flip side because I've also been the person on the other side where people are hitting me up with DMs. Hey Justin, can you share this? Hey, we're dropping. We did this interview with this wrestler. Do you mind sharing? We think it's gonna go viral. And I say yes most of the time, like because I tell people, I'm like, ask me. Don't expect me just to share shit because I see a lot of shit on a daily basis. But if you ask me, I'll do it. Like I'm cool with a lot of people in the community. I want our wrestling community to thrive. But there has been times where someone's like, can you share something? It's like midnight. I feel like I'm done posting for the day. My story already has like 200 slides or some shit like it does most of the time. So I'm like, listen, I'm not going to share it today. I'll share it tomorrow. And then I forget. Don't take it personally. I genuinely forgot because it was like midnight when you sent this to me and the whole new day started. And that's what I was like, oh, so, and I expect those people not to take it personally. So when I looked at it from that perspective, I'm like, oh, that probably what happens to other people too. They're not trying to cold shoulder me. They just got busy or they forgot. Like I forget sometimes.
It's crazy how we have to like kind of put yourself in their shoes, and it's like, you know what if you're in a situation? But then sometimes I'll be like, well, I would have to handle it different. But then my friend was just like, yo, shut the fuck up. Like,
and
just take a step back.
The other really cool thing about your story that I think has been a struggle for me this past year, and then we'll move on, talk about the releases, is there is a difference. There's a different connection you can make with someone when you get to meet and vibe with them in person rather than you're only just emailing and DMing them all the time. Even if it's like, even virtual, like this is cool. Like we're going to vibe more because we did a virtual thing more than just DMing each other all the time. But even in person just hits a different level of connection.
Yeah, it's energy.
Like, and that's been hard for me being stuck in Canada through the pandemic, not being able to go to wrestling shows and going to WrestleCons and events to really network with people, not having indie shows here for a year to network with the wrestlers to come and stuff. Like way back in the day when I did an interview with the Singh brothers, the Bollywood boys, one of the things they said to me was, you know, just always show up. Even if you have nothing to do there, just show up. And then I remember I did a thing for WrestleMania 30, whatever one was in 34 New Orleans, where I wasn't going to go last minute because my media got rejected by WWE. And then one of the wrestlers was like, no, just come down here and be here. And I went down there and I was just there and all this stuff happened. And I haven't been able to do that a lot the past year, just be present. Like I haven't even attended an AEW show yet because they started, a pandemic happened, and it never happened, you know? And it's just like, and I have so many people that I'm friends with in that company that I'm like, man, but if I could hang out with them and meet them in person, we could probably be in a whole different space right now. But that haven't been able. So like that's the other thing. So it's really easy to get offended or turned away or turned off by emails and texts and stuff like that and DMs. But that in-person connection is what matters the most. And to your other story, I had a situation very similar back in like 2017 when I was just kind of trying to do like interviews and stuff. And I'm gonna share the story because me and Jinder are homies, like we're cool with each other. So like I know it was my bad back then, but I remember being very anxious. Like, we knew each other then too, but like not as well as we know each other now. And he gave me his phone number, which is like very big personal space. Like he gave me his phone number, hit me up. I'm gonna be in town. We'll do this interview. And he actually had this whole big plan where I was gonna follow him from morning all the way up until he walked through the curtain. And like he wanted me to do this whole thing with him, but it got rejected by the social media team. And he was WWE champion at the time. Like this was like, you know what I mean? Like this was like Jinder. Like he was trying to give me an opportunity because like we kind of met before in my neighborhood where I live and stuff. And we hung out and stuff. But like I remember being really anxious, nervous, and the time thinking I had to text him. And I think I texted him at like midnight my time, which was like 3 a.m. his time.
Fuck.
But I didn't think of it like that really quickly. And then he messaged me back, he's like, hey, bro, it's like 3 a.m. Like it's really early. It's really early. Text me. Like, text me later. I'm like, oh shit. And I got like my heart sank for a second. I'm like, oh, did I fuck this up? Like, oh my god. But he was cool about it. He was just saying like, hey, you're gonna text me, like wait till like daytime or something. Like, dude, you text
wait
me,
till
it's off at like 3 a.m. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I'm not Vince McMahon or something. I should not be texting that man at 3 a.m.
Yeah. It's how it is because it's you know what it is, and it's like this double-edged sword for you.
Yeah.
And for people like us in general, it's like you're ambitious. So when you're ambitious, you go after it, and then you get tunnel vision, and then the tunnel vision ends up going, and then you don't see like the bigger picture. Like, hey, it's 3 a.m. in his time, but you're thinking like, yo, if I hit him up right away, right before he wakes up, or something of that nature, like right now, I got to do it right now. So that's what happens. But really, it's like, no, bro, bigger picture, it's 3 a.m.
Yeah, like just chill, just chill.
But I
It was
told
actually
you,
I probably have the text. It was like he was really nice about it. It was just like, bro, it's
but,
3
and that was the same thing with the lady that I was working with. I didn't understand that Sunday for many people is a day off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and she's a publicist, so they work literally 6 or 7 days a week. So maybe that's her. She carved that Sunday out to like, hey, I'm not answering any business type of stuff. So yeah, so I get you, bro.
Yeah. Let's talk about the other elephant in the room, though, the stuff that unfortunately went down yesterday, and that was the releases. We had more releases. Wow. 2020 and 2021. There was a time where I am totally guilty of saying that sometimes I felt like WWE was signing everybody off the indies and just hoarding talent, and I didn't understand why. And now they're just letting everybody go, and nobody shocks me anymore. Once they let Bray and Braun and certain people go, nobody shocks me anymore. How did you feel about the releases yesterday? I'll quickly just run down the names. Of course, the big one being talked about a lot is Hit Row. So Top Dollar, Shane Strickland, and Tahuti Miles, aka Adonis, Ashanti the Adonis. Tegan Knox, Drake Maverick, John Morrison, Shane Thorne, and Jackson Riker. I'll let you. The floor is yours. Which one was the biggest shock to you, and how do you feel about this?
To be honest, at first it was Hit Row, because I was like, you know what? I thought because they did so much to promote them when they went on SmackDown, so that was a shocker. And you know what's funny? You know I'm a massive wrestling fan and also a dork.
Yeah.
About 2 days ago, maybe the day or yesterday or something, I was thinking about John Morrison randomly. And I was like, he's probably leaving. His wife is gone. He ain't staying.
Yeah.
And then I saw the list. And I was like, okay, this makes sense. His, like, you know, they weren't really using him that much. It was mostly with Miz. And he's gone. Tegan Knox, I like her, but she can't stay healthy.
Yeah, that's that one. Okay, so I wasn't shocked about it, but I was disappointed because I really like Tegan. I'm
So do I.
Fan. I think she's great in the ring. I think she has a ton of potential, but unfortunately, I just recall her being injured more than actually being active on the roster, and that sucks. But I'm rooting for her. I think wherever she goes, she's gonna kill it. But yeah. Shane Thorne.
When it came to Hit Row,
yeah,
all right. I'm not as insider as you are, but I had a couple of insider like.
I'm sure you are more than I am. You're in that area. You're in New York.
Yes, that conversation with certain people that are within the E, and they were saying that because Dave Meltzer released a statement saying how AJ Gray was rubbing people the wrong way while he was in NXT when he got up to the main roster. At first, I was like, you know what? This is probably some BS. They're probably trying to put some dirt on Homeboy's name, whatever, like that. And then the people I know within the company, they were just like, nah, this is true.
Yeah.
It was to a point where he kind of took Hit Row down with him type of thing.
Yeah, I was trying to get my buddy. There was a tweet, I think AJ tweeted out today saying something, responding, I think, to Cultaholic saying like, claiming, I don't know the truth behind it, that I think he's like, I think they let us, like, something about him standing up for what happened to B-Fab was part of the reason why they got let go.
Nah, it was a couple other things. It was a situation where he did something.
Was it the gender freestyle?
Huh?
Was it the gender freestyle?
No, it wasn't the gender freestyle. Okay. That was like, you know, it kind of, but it was like an accumulation of things. Like one thing that he did was he did something in front of Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
And the person he did it in front of, it was an accident, but he didn't apologize.
Okay.
He kind of was just telling the person like, yo, like move type of shit. Like it wasn't an apology. And Roman saw it.
Yeah.
And Vince heard about it too.
Yeah.
So it's it's his whole attitude, the way that he approached everything was very arrogant.
Yeah.
And very much not like there was no humbleness in him at all.
Yeah.
But he kind of was given a lot. He came in, got his own show with A&E because he was hosting the WWE thing.
Yeah.
He goes to NXT, becomes a that type of person, and then he goes to SmackDown. I don't think he ever had somebody to help him out.
Do you think his bad or negative backstage etiquette that's being said is the situation why. Was the reason why? Was it like, well, we're gonna let go of Top Dollar, but like if we're gonna let go of Top Dollar, how's the rest of this group gonna work?
That's what I think, because from what was being said, once again, these are rumors.
Yeah,
that he was supposedly one of the top guys that's supposed to be the breakout star, and they saw Ashanti and Swerve being more of a tag team.
Yeah, and then initially it almost seemed as if like Swerve and Top Dollar were gonna be the tag team, because I think Ashanti was hurt, and then I think it just was a bunch of, it was bad luck back to back or something.
It was bad luck, and at the end of the day, I don't like the fact you put in time into people, and you just get rid of them.
I mean, they were selling merch, they were getting popular, the fans.
Yeah, kind of see where this goes.
Do you think that I started thinking about it a bit myself? I'm like, they've been doing a lot of dark matches with NXT people recently in the last like 4 or 5 months. Obviously, the releases happen at the same time. Do you think these dark matches is a way for like Vince and Dunn and Khan or whoever else to see these NXT talents they might not be seeing a lot of, because they producing all of that and everything, and being like, well, let's see what they have. Should we call them up, or should we let them chill down there for a bit?
Of course,
that's the test, and then kind of siphoning out who they're going to release now. Because like, and I've said this about NXT 2.0 since the exception, after watching the first couple of episodes. I'm like, what NXT 2.0 is basically what NXT was in 2012, 13, 14. And here in Canada, used to come on TV since back then, pre-network. We've had NXT since day one. I saw Sasha before she was a boss. I saw all that stuff. So I'm like, that's what I see on NXT now is what that was back then. It was like over the top characters, very 90s, bosses, best friends, like all that type of stuff. And then I always say, like, by around 2015, 16, NXT turned into WWE's indie promotion. And that's what it became. But I think they're not looking at it no more as a third brand or like their indie promotion. They want it to be the development brand again. And now we want people there and we want to call them up. And let's just the people that have been there for a while. And if they're good, we'll call them up. If not, we'll let them stick down there for a bit until we figure out what we're going to do with them. And we're seeing a lot of people that have dark matches get called up and then just get released. Do you think it's just because they call them up and then they realize there's nothing to do with them, and they also don't want them to go back to NXT because they have a mindset of what they want to do down there now, and they want people to stay there for a less period of time and get called up sooner? Or do you think it's the whole conspiracy of, well, we'll bring them up here. We don't know if they're good or not, but if we can't figure out something for them on the main roster, then we'll let them go. And 2, now they have 90 days, not 30 days.
It's I think they truly want to use talent.
Yeah.
But I think it's both. Two things.
Yeah.
70% they get talent and don't know what the hell to do with it. And then there's 30% where it's like that talent just doesn't work on the main roster.
Yeah.
It just does not work. It doesn't hit at all. So I think that's what it is in a nutshell for me, where it's like some people just can't hit, and other people, they get up there and they're like, okay, what do we do with you? Because we have to make you larger than life because of how many people going to see you every week, and how the main roster is. And then we have to find something that is somewhat PG, somewhat that works off your best qualities, and maybe your best qualities ain't mic skills. So then we have to figure out something around that. Your look might not be what we think is WWE appropriate. Like, it's they just can't figure things out for the most part.
Because there's some people you have to sit there, like even with the last batch of releases, like Karrion Kross and Keith Lee, and you're just like, how did you not figure out how to use these guys? And it's kind of shocking. But then, we kind of hear rumbles of things after they get released, like Karrion Kross being like, that helmet's stupid, nobody wants that piece of trash, or Keith Lee being like, that bear thing wasn't. Do you think maybe part of it is the moment you become even a little bit hard to work with, they're like, okay, just
of course,
let them loose. Because not saying that these guys are hard to work with, they like, we saw Karrion Kross try to make that shit work, we saw Keith Lee trying to make that shit work, but there might have just been a little bit of like, oh, he's not happy with the stuff, like, fuck, just let him go then.
Of course.
Yeah.
Why do you even ask that question? Let's just keep it a whole buck. Yeah. It is super corporate up there, super white collar wrestling. That's what it's called. It's white collar wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go there, you got to follow the rules. You got to play the game to the T. And I remember we had Shad Gaspar, Wrestle Soul, on the podcast a couple like 2 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever it was. And he really gave us a a look into the backstage politics of WWE.
Yeah.
Where he even said it himself, he was the one that caused himself to lose his push to get a WWE title.
He told the whole story. We did a whole 5-episode podcast together before you passed away, unfortunately. That are still up on my YouTube channel. You can listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, so you know, it's
and he told the full story about how it was his fault that his push got dropped.
Yeah, like if you sneeze a certain type of way,
yeah,
it could cost you something. So I wouldn't be surprised if these dudes that got released or situations happen where they just did one little thing and everybody's like, because sometimes that one little thing turns into a way bigger thing.
Yeah, and I think the culture, being at Full Sail or the Performance Center in NXT and your ability to speak up and talk and pitch in about ideas is not the same on the main roster. And I think that's the thing. I think a lot of these guys go up there that were backstage at NXT and they're probably like locker room leaders and the top guys down there and they could shoot their shit and then they go to the main roster and try to do the same shit. And it's like, nah, it's not like that up here.
Yeah.
Start at the bottom again. And I think that's part of it as well, to be honest. But yeah, other than that, I want to say Drake Maverick obviously got released last year, got signed back. Cool story there. Did a whole bunch of stuff. Got released again. And I just want to say, like, honestly, his perspective. I don't know when he recorded that video, if he got called earlier in the day before it was announced and like sat down and put it together, or if he just knew this was gonna fucking happen again. So he like had this pre-taped and ready to go. But man, that was a tremendous video, guys. If you didn't go check it out, it gives a different perspective. We're really quick to feel bad for these guys, obviously. Right? Like, we don't want to see anybody lose their jobs. It fucking sucks, right? Especially out of nowhere. And we've seen a lot of people that got released in the past years that are thriving right now. Look at the inspiration and impact. Look at Malachi in AEW. Look at the people that are doing dope shit outside of WWE now.
I'm going to cut you off. Malachi Black will be at HOG December 11th, by the way.
Tell him I said hello. That guy's a fucking man. Every week, because he doesn't. I mean, I talk to him every week because he needs help finding pictures, and I know where to find all the pictures. And he's one of the most genuine, nicest dudes I've ever dealt with in the DMs ever. Like, ever.
I have met so many people who've met him in person.
Yeah.
And say the exact same thing that you just said.
I talk to him, once again, legitimately, if he's on TV, I talk to him once a week because I send him all the pictures of himself that AEW sends us and that the other photographers that I know take of him. And I'll DM him with all these pictures because he's like, because he told me straight, he's like, listen, I'm not actually on social media that much, but I love having the content. So thank you for sending me these pictures. He's like, if you can just send them, and if it's from a photographer, I'm the photographer, so I don't forget to credit them. He's so nice that he won't post a thing. He's like, he'll find a picture that I didn't even send him, send it to me and be like, do you know who took this? And then I'll go find it. He's like, awesome, because I want to make sure I credit them. There's a lot of wrestlers there that will take pictures and graphics from people and never credit them. Like, he's the type of guy that's like, he hits me up with a picture that he randomly found. Is like, do you know who took this? So he makes sure he can credit them. Like, that's
that's all I hear is super nice things about him, man. Super, super nice things. But going back to Drake Maverick, man.
Dope guy too. And I have stories about Drake being a fucking genuine guy too. Yeah.
His wife is a sweetheart. We did an episode with him, with her, and just one of the nicest people ever. But speaking of him, that video was like, damn, man, you good. Like,
they can't fire you from professional wrestling. They can't. And I was like, thank you. Somebody finally said it. WWE is not the end all be all. And I think what sometimes like we forget is like all the wrestlers are humans. And I think for all of us that grew up wrestling fans, like there was a point where it's like the dream is to work for the WWE. Like that's like you want to be on a WrestleMania, you want to work in the WWE. But now it's like I think people know now, like that's not the end. That's not it. That's not the only thing. That's not the only way to be a famous wrestler. You know?
Yeah, I said it in this chat I was in with a bunch of wrestling heads, and I said it like wrestling is turning to the music industry. There was a time when, okay, let's put it like this. Let's say you were a rapper in the late 90s, early 2000s. Your dream was to get signed to Def Jam or one of the big labels, Def Jam, Elektra, Loud Records, whatever, one of those big labels. And now you don't need to be signed to a big label. You can put yourself out independently, have yourself online, make a great living, not a decent living, a great living, just like a wrestler, selling merch, doing shows, doing other little things to make money. And I think, like you said, the end all be all isn't WWE anymore. You can still make a quality living wrestling on the independent scene by building your brand up.
And I think the WWE is the best place to get your brand out there, though. I'll say that. Like,
Of
and I
course.
think anybody that's had the privilege to work there and live their dream a little bit and get fired from there, like you're leaving with a bigger stock behind your name because you went through that company. I also say this a lot, and this is not trying to shit on anybody because I'm an AEW fan just as much as I'm a WWE fan. I like both companies. I'm not on either's team. Like a lot of y'all out there, I see. I read your comments. I'm on both teams. I grew up a WWE fan. I'll always be a WWE fan. I was also a huge ass WCW fan. They're out of business. I love that shit. I was a huge TNA fan from 2002 to 2011, and I love AEW. But like, I will say this: I can tell when I watch AEW which people went through the WWE system and which people didn't.
Oh,
My
100%.
buddy was watching Full Gear with me that doesn't watch wrestling all the time. He's like, "Yo, this Tay Conti seems like she knows what she's doing because she went through the system." You can tell that Adam Cole's like a little bit more seasoned than the Young Bucks and others around him because he went through that system. They're seasoned in their own indie kind of different way, but they don't have that WWE like what's that like that WWE pixie dust or whatever on them, like that.
What it is that they pace a lot better.
Yeah, and they understand how to work a television crowd.
Exactly.
Punk, Bryan, Cole, Malachi, all these guys that went, they kind of know how to pace their promos, how to work a crowd. They know when to pause and just soak in a moment. Like that's the difference. For example, the two biggest things that happened on AEW this week for me was that CM Punk MJF moment. And I said it to everyone, and even when I was showing my buddies and I'm talking to people in my group chats, like, you can't turn Bryan heel. You can't turn Bryan heel. I'm like, listen, Bryan's been a heel since the moment he came to this company. We were just happy he's there. He literally came in and said, I'm not CM Punk. I'm here to kick some fucking heads in. I'm not trying to work with the younger talent. And if you're going to turn Bryan heel, Hangman Page is the perfect person to do it against.
Of course. Of course. Of course. And he knew what to say. He said WrestleMania. Boo! Boo! Because he knows how to work a crowd, and it's them going through that system. And I think one day the AEW will have their own system. They'll finally figure out what is their complete style of wrestling is when it comes to in-ring, working the crowd, and their promo style. Because at the end of the day, they're gonna start building up homegrown talent. They're technically building it up now, but those guys ain't really homegrown talent because they were indie superstars before. So people
I also want to point out, like, this is not something new. I'm not just trying to, like, once again, for you AEW super fans, I'm not shitting on AEW because this is the same thing that happened back in the day. Like, listen, WCW was its own style of wrestling. It wasn't like the WWF. It wasn't cartoony and gimmicky. It was Southern wrestling. The Saturday night show was like 2 or 3 falls matches. It was Arn Anderson. It was Ric Flair. It was Sting. It was a different vibe. When guys like Savage and the Outsiders came in there, you knew they felt like WWF guys, but they brought something different to that product. They elevated it, and that's all I'm saying. When guys like Malachi, Punk, and Bryan and Adam Cole come, they just bring something that elevates it because they went through that system.
They went through a system
that is a very
50 years.
Whether you hate or love WWE, and it's not the same WWE that wrestlers dreamed about going to. It's a whole different corporate world. They've mastered the system of how to make
exactly. Because I'll give an example.
Yeah,
my shoot job is personal training.
Yeah,
and the first company I ever worked with was for a company called Equinox. I don't know if they have an Equinox in Canada.
They're all over the place. We have a ton of them in Vancouver.
Okay, so Equinox has a certain style of training for their trainers. And when I went to another gym and I was training my client, some dude comes up to me and is like, "You worked at Equinox, right?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, you're training like an Equinox trainer." Because it's a polished way of the way that we do things. It's not like it's better than another training style. It's just a different polished way of doing things. So I get what you're saying. And AEW marks who are watching this, we're not shitting on it. We're just saying that WWE has this style that they have, cranked out over the years to make it better and better for their type of television. Because I even see like Mick Drake. We work closely with this company called Battle Club Pro.
Yeah.
We did a conjunction show called Jobber Slam with them earlier this year, and their champion is Mick Drake. He's a former NXT guy.
Yeah.
And you see his matches, you go, that's a WWE guy.
Yeah. They know how to tell a story. They know when to slow it down. I'm telling you, everybody that's been able to work with Punk, Bryan, and Cole, whether you're Jungle Boy, your MGF, your Darby Allin, your Evil Uno, anybody that's got to work with this, they're helping these guys learn a different style because obviously you know that Punk, Bryan, and Cole are probably leading these matches.
Oh, they have to.
And listen, MJF and Darby was probably one of my favorite matches. That was my favorite match of Full Gear. That was my favorite match of Full Gear. I did a whole Full Gear recap, guys. You can listen to it. That was my favorite match of Full Gear. If you're looking for Full Gear review, we already did it. It's already available wherever you listen to the show. That was my favorite match of the show. Favorite match of the night.
So, question for you.
Yeah.
Are you okay with the length of the matches for AEW's pay-per-views?
For some of them. Some of them don't need to be so long.
Explain.
I didn't mind MJF and Darby being as long as it was. They told a great story. There was a story there. Did I need the Inner Circle and that America's Top Team being that long? Absolutely not. Did the Young Bucks and Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy Christian go a little bit long? Absolutely. There's some matches that go long. But then again, Punk and Eddie Kingston was like 10 minutes, and wrestling fans are complaining about that. I'm like, no, 10 minutes is enough time for that fight. So like there are some matches that go too long though, 100%. On television, there's matches that go too long every week.
Okay, I just because I was just like, yo, if this pay-per-view was cut down a little bit, it would have been perfection.
I think this is like we go on a whole different topic here. Listen, that's a good. That kind of ties into the releases a little bit too, and the stuff that I like. It's because they know they have too much talent and they're trying to fit as much as they can on the card, and that's gonna make the show longer. Nobody wants to sit there for that long. I'm like nobody. Not everybody can make the card. It really fucking sucks. I'm sorry. Like, and that's why I'm also like, you can't hire more men. Stop hiring men. I understand that Kyle O'Reilly and Kevin Owens might show up there. That's cool. They're gonna get work because they're friends with certain people in that company. But stop hiring anybody else.
They can't.
You want to hire Tegan Knox? Knock yourself out. The women's division, you can hire some more women. Stop hiring men.
No, they can't. They can't. And the thing is, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
The wrestling fan in me would not mind it, but the practical side of my brain is like, this doesn't make any sense to them hiring them.
Where's Brian Cage? What happened to Lance Archer? What happened to all these people that you promised? Ricky Starks doesn't even feel as important the way that Ricky Starks should feel.
Yeah, it's too many. It's too many people, and I want
people we want to see, so it causes a problem.
But the thing is, I want AEW to flourish because it makes wrestling more popular.
Yeah. No, 100%. And the other problem I find today, Becky Lynch brought this up on I think El Hawani's thing, and I'm happy she did because I've been preaching this, I want to say, since like 2019. We have so much wrestling in the week, right? We have Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, now Rampage, NXT if you're watching NXT, and if you're like a really big fan, you're watching the independent stuff, you're watching New Japan Strong, you're watching other stuff. We have a lot of good wrestling. We are spoiled with good wrestling. It's a great thing. If you're like a wrestling fan that really likes the shit that happens within the ring and the matches and whatnot, that's amazing. I think AEW, the best thing they do is they give us matches we didn't even know we wanted. And then we get excited to watch a show, but then those matches don't really mean anything because they're not involved in the story or anything. And my complaint that has been happening for the last 2 years is like, because it happens on Raw all the time. They like, as far as I know, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins probably had a banger last week on Raw. And I'm not going to remember it 2 weeks from now because it's just another match that happened on a busy week of good matches. There's never been a time in professional wrestling than right now where storylines and characters matter more than anything else. Because there is so much wrestling that's fucking great, but unless we can stay invested in the people that are wrestling, the reason why they're wrestling, then we're not going to care. There's nothing I care about in the WWE right now besides the women's division because Becky Lynch and Charlotte and Sasha are such great characters. And Roman, because Roman's a great character. I don't know about anything else. Like everyone's probably killing it and there's so much great talent there, but I don't care about great wrestling matches. AEW gives us great wrestling matches every week. The problem with great wrestling matches, and I hope they listen to this, is that I can skip a great wrestling match and watch it later if it doesn't mean anything. But if that match has something that it meant, then I want to watch it live. I feel like I need to tune in while you're live on television. I'm not going to stream it later on the internet.
No, because you want to be part of the moment.
Yeah, and like that's why I said the two things that stood out to me the most this week was the Daniel Bryan Hangman segment and the CM Punk MJF segment. Why? Because they were moments, and now I feel like I need to tune in next week to see what happens.
Because it's an episodic feel.
It's not you gave me a great match, and now this week there's another lineup of great matches. I don't feel like I need to tune in for matches that aren't gonna. Well, something happen after the match, maybe, but I don't care.
Yeah, because you want to watch it, and then I was yelling about this about 3-4 weeks ago, whatever. It was CM Punk, and he had came back, and I was like, yo, he doesn't, what he's doing now doesn't mean anything.
I'm the biggest CM Punk fan. I agree.
And then the week after, Eddie Kingston pops out. And I said this on my podcast as well. I was like, you low-key cared more about Eddie versus CM Punk than Adam versus Kenny.
100%.
Because
something there.
It was something there that you was like, yo, I want to watch this match. They've been building this up. They had a little back and forth in the parking lot that a face-off of the week before. It was like, all right, let's see this. Let's watch this.
And listen, I care about Adam and Kenny because this is a 2-year build story. That's the only other match I felt like had a story on that card. And then there was Eddie and Punk. Listen, there's a lot of great matches on the card, but even Darby and MJF, there was a story, but that's the thing about AEW. The stories they do tell most of the time, not all the time, most of the stuff that Jericho does, most of the stuff that Cody does, and most of the BTE universe does in their own little universe is long-term storytelling. But everything else sometimes feels rushed and finished. The fact that Eddie and Punk technically seems like it's already done and we're moving on from it. As excited as I am about MJF and Punk, the fact that we're not continuing Eddie and Punk and he's already moving, that's the problem. He keeps moving so fast. I got hyped for the Team Taz thing. I'm like, this is something. Oh, it's not anything. I got hyped for Punk and Eddie. I'm like, oh, this is something. And now it's not anything. Now I'm getting hyped for Punk and MJF. Are they going to have one match and then move on?
I'm going to tell you this right now. If AEW becomes more episodic and better with the storylines, this company's is out of here. I mean, in a good way, meaning that they're on another level.
100%. Once again, Tony is a genius booker when it comes to giving us matches we want to see that we didn't even we want to see. He's always, I look at the card, I'm like, oh, I do want to watch it. Like tonight, we got Bobby Fish and Adam Cole teaming up. Let's go. Didn't even know we're gonna get that this soon. But I don't if we were recording this and I had to watch it after the fact, it doesn't bother me. I don't feel like I need to watch it because it's just a wrestling match.
Yeah, and you'll catch it. You'll catch like you said. But if he gets maybe 1 or 2 people with phenomenal creative minds that can really make things episodic, and this goes for WWE too.
Yeah.
The only episodic thing that we got going on is Roman. This is the season of Roman right now. That's the only thing that really got going. And then we're seeing, but even that, it's like he pulls somebody else from other places and brings them in. Like for Big E coming in and then him having that match and Big E talking about it. It's only really Roman that's going on.
Let's talk about that really quickly though, because let's make Survivor Series predictions right now since we're talking about Roman and Big E. I almost feel like they shouldn't have done this whole brand thing this year.
Why you say that?
I just think it's the brand split, the draft just happened, and you really need to make your brands feel special. Doing the Raw SmackDown thing kind of just always puts a crutch in the middle of longer storylines because now we have to do this champion versus champion thing when other things could be happening, you know?
I always like the traditional type of brand versus brand.
Mm-hmm.
So I disagree with you when you say you shouldn't have it. But I understand where you're coming from on it. The problem is they ain't hyped nothing up. They didn't make this feel important. The same thing we went back to when we talked about AEW. Nothing about this feels important or that you must watch, except Charlotte versus Becky.
There you got me, because I was like, that's the only thing.
That's the only thing.
And to be honest with you, majority of that build didn't even happen on television.
Yes, it's been happening on all the dirt sheets. They've been doing radio interviews, and it's like, yo, are we being worked or is this shit fucking legit? Because I don't know right now.
They've built this up through their interviews, their appearances, the Twitter, the backstage dirt sheet about the belt exchange. That's what built this matchup. They didn't. Yeah, Becky cut a pretty good promo on Raw this week before Liv came out on Charlotte, and Charlotte cut a promo on Becky last week. That's for sure. But once again, I'm not there's no match that really is intriguing me this Sunday about Survivor Series. I'm gonna watch it because I enjoy the traditional tag matches and whatnot. Yeah. But and guys, check out my article on 1:37 p.m. I ranked my top 10 favorite traditional tag team matches of Survivor Series history. Plus, I made my predictions, which I'm gonna update later today once this Fatal 4-Way that's on TV right now ends. and I'll update them. But we're gonna make our predictions on here anyway, so you're gonna hear them anyways. But go check out the article for my top 10 favorite traditional matches. But yeah, like that's the only match I was like, if you told me a week ago, like what match you're looking forward to at Survivor Series, I didn't have one realistically. But now I'm like Charlotte and Becky. I want to see how it plays out.
Yeah, it's one of those. I have my iPad up and I'm watching the Fatal 4.
I know, keep on because we're gonna have to make a prediction. But who do you think's gonna win the Becky and Charlotte match then? Because my theory says neither of them really need the win, and none of them really hurt by losing. But like, who do you pick then?
So my heart says Becky, but a part of me really wants Charlotte to win.
Same. I actually want Charlotte to win.
Because the reason I want Charlotte to win because it brings her heel heat up to another level. Like, damn, they got her winning again. Like, she's so privileged.
And the fact that they're technically both heels, in a way, Becky's looked at right now as the baby face. Yeah. No matter what. In this situation, Becky's looked as like, with all the rumors and the innuendo and the way she's getting these promos on Ariel Helwani's MMA now and stuff, like, oh yeah, some people do look at me as a hero. Yeah, the people like she is hard to work with. Becky looks like the superhero. I need Charlotte to beat her, so then Charlotte can be like, what? What are you gonna say now? I beat your guys' hero.
Yeah. You know? it just works so perfectly. But what else we got on that card? Oh, Roman versus Big E.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? I have no opinion about that, but I think you can't have Roman lose yet, and that's not the place to have Roman lose. So my theory was you either have it end in some sort of DQ situation.
That's what I think happens, but I honestly think Roman's pinning Big E.
Yeah, and that's I'm like you can go to the well again, but it's gonna be super redundant and repetitive from last year, where like Drew never really lost, he passed out. But I'm like, what are you gonna do that again? Everyone's gonna notice that you did it again. Because Drew had a really good showing against Roman. They didn't want Drew to lose either. So what did they have? They had Drew almost beat Roman. They had Roman cheat a little bit, and then they just had Drew pass out instead.
Yeah. But I think Roman wins off a clean pin too.
I'm still a little annoyed that Roman guys came to Raw and did that whole 6-man tag, and the show ended with Roman and the Usos standing tall and Big E was the champion. I'm like, that was the worst.
Oh, it's like I said before, it hasn't been anything good.
Yeah.
When it comes to the one thing I will tell you, a lot of time when they do this bullshit where there's no real build, the pay-per-view itself, especially the matches, are fire.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, yo, this was a banger ass pay-per-view.
And Roman and Big E are gonna go out there and deliver. They're gonna try to give us the best match of the night. Who do you think should main event? Charlotte and Becky or Roman and Big E? Because personally, a lot of people are saying with everything that's going on, like Charlotte and Becky should main event, but
Roman and Big E should main event.
Okay.
Strictly because who Roman is right now.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against the ladies because they have a better build up, and you can co-main event technically.
Yeah. Do you see Rock or Brock showing up at all? Rock to plant seeds, not to do anything other than to plant seeds. 25 years, come plant seeds. He's coming eventually. WrestleMania in LA a couple years now, sure.
The mere fact
to come back to plant seeds for the WrestleMania coming up.
Yeah, but the mere fact that Red Notice is sponsoring the fucking WWE right now shows the Rock has to show up to do something.
Roman wins. He celebrates. If you smell, quick promo.
Not even a promo. This is a stare down. We end the pay-per-view right
Cena style, Money in the Bank.
Yeah, we end the pay-per-view right there. There's no need to do extra because now you want to tune into Monday Night Raw. Is the Rock going to show up?
Head to the back and Rock can cut a promo for the fans after the show.
Yeah,
I can see that.
And it doesn't need to be anything more than that.
That'd be epic.
Of course, I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be at the bar down the block from it, but it's fine.
Where are you guys going to be at Legends?
Yeah, I'm going to be at Legends, and but you know, I've been.
I went there one whole time that WrestleMania weekend in New York, but
it's we're going off topic, but Legends is home to pay-per-view viewing parties. Anybody that's in New York.
No, I wanted you to say it. So if anyone's listening to this from New York, guys, go show up at Legends if you're not going to go to the show.
Yeah.
Then we have Damian Priest and Shinsuke. Honestly, quick prediction. I just think Damian Priest needs to go over. Shinsuke is Shinsuke.
Damian Priest is definitely going over. Damian Priest is on that up and up right now.
Yeah, he's new. He needs it, to be honest. Shinsuke doesn't. Shinsuke wins, cool. But I think they're trying to show a new Damian Priest. They're trying to like show a different side of him.
Yeah.
Yada, yada. RK Bro and the Usos. Usos. I said the same thing. I just think now is the time, like not like let's stab a fork in it, check if it's ready, but let's plant some seeds for Riddle and Orton for WrestleMania. That's what's going.
They're ready. I think they're already planting the seeds right now.
They are. But let Riddle get distracted. So something where Orton gets pissed about them losing the match. They're not losing the belts, but they lost the match. That's something to piss Orton.
You know what's funny? Technically, WrestleMania is around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
It's only like I don't really count December because of the holidays makes things go by so fast.
Mm-hmm.
But come January, it's WrestleMania season.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if they Riddle versus Orton at WrestleMania.
And let the tribal chief be proud with his boys winning the match for SmackDown. You know,
of course,
let that happen. And then we got the women's teams, which obviously Raw is Zelina, Carmella, Bianca, Rhea, and I believe what was the last one? I'll go look right now. I should pull this up. We got, and then that's not what we need. We got Bianca, Rhea, Liv. Oh yeah, the number one contender for the women's championship, Liv Morgan, is on the team with against Sasha, Shayna, Shotzi, Natalya, and not Aaliyah anymore now, Toni Storm, which I announced yesterday on Twitter. Initially, I figured that Raw was just gonna win because I just thought like the tension between Shotzi and Sasha was a lot. You know, Shayna could be dominant, but I just feel like Shayna's kryptonite is a roll up of doom. Aaliyah wasn't the strongest person on the team, you know. So I was like, Raw looks pretty strong. You got Rhea and Bianca, you got Liv, and then as much as Carmella and Zelina are like funny and kind of more comedic acts right now, like we know, Carmella's a former women's champion and a number one contender many times, and Zelina's the queen right now. They're not going to have them just go out like that, but anything can happen in these matches. I still think it's going to be Team Raw, even though Tony's on the other side. I have a feeling that Liv is going to be have a really strong shot. Liv might even be one of the survivors or sole survivors of the match. I know it's a long shot, but I think if you're building towards Liv and Becky for something, let Liv look strong here. Let Becky lose. More ammo for Liv. What do you think?
I think this is a SmackDown.
Okay.
I think SmackDown wins. That will be the curveball because of how strong Raw looks.
Yeah.
And I really think SmackDown's the one that takes it.
Okay, fair enough. And then for the men, we're still missing the final man who they're trying to find out who it is right now as Cesaro swings Jinder in the ring as we're talking. We got Seth, Finn, Kevin Owens, Bobby Lashley, and now Austin Theory. This was once a team of all former champions, but now Austin Theory's on there replacing Ray. The Mysterios got screwed against Drew McIntyre, Jeff Hardy, King Woods, Baron Corbin, and to be determined in a few minutes here. I don't even know, but I just feel like for me, I thought Raw would win the women's and SmackDown would win the men's. I'm
going with Raw for this one.
Okay.
I'm really going with Raw because of how many former champs are on there, and Austin Theory. But it's so stacked, and Vince loves Raw, so it's definitely Raw winning.
My prediction was based off of the Mysterios being on there, but man, you have Lashley, you have Owens, you have Finn, you have Seth. Like that's a lot of big egos too. Like that's what I was like. Maybe there'll be issues of egos. And I don't think Austin's gonna try taking a selfie with someone and get eliminated. But then, I think they want to remain making Drew McIntyre look strong. I think they're not gonna fully bury King Woods. I think we don't know who's gonna be in it. It might be Ricochet, it might be Jinder, it might be Cesaro, it might be Sheamus, but SmackDown's looking pretty strong too. I don't know. So I'm still gonna stick with SmackDown. Those are all the predictions we can make so far because those are the only announced matches.
Okay.
We got a little bit of time left, but I want you to explain this tweet that you put out this week. It was let me see if I can pull it up really quickly for the people that are watching. You wrote a tweet that said Shawn Michaels had a bigger influence in modern day wrestling than Bret Hart. And me being the Canadian that I am and a Bret Hart fan, and listen, Shawn is right behind Bret Hart for me and my favorites of all time. It goes Bret and then Shawn. That's how it's always been and always will be. But to say that he's a bigger influence on modern wrestling than Bret kind of hit me the wrong way. But I want to know your theory behind that before I tell you I think that's wrong.
So,
which I don't think is completely wrong, but I think it's wrong.
No, it's opinion based. So let's break it down. One, Shawn's a smaller dude.
Mm-hmm.
Bret, you could argue, was technically a smaller dude compared to the guys of that before him. But Shawn's a smaller dude. Majority of wrestlers right now are around Shawn's size. He inspired a lot of smaller guys like, yo, I can do this too. How many people are doing a super kick nowadays?
Everybody, too much though. They're not even doing it the right way.
Yes. But the thing is, I can give you the recipe, but you can still mess it up.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And being that when it came to like entertainment side of wrestling.
Really quick, come out. Sheamus is on the team, by the way. So Sheamus is the last member of Team SmackDown. So it's now Drew, Sheamus, Jeff Hardy, Austin, and King Woods. I was about to say Austin Creed.
Oh, you're a little
King
faster
Woods,
than me.
but I'm gonna say that I'm still going Team SmackDown because I think Raw has too many egos. But go on about your Shawn thing.
But listen, Shawn was, and also Shawn, low key, and nobody wants to admit this, helped usher in the Attitude Era.
So that's an argument. I love that argument, but I also want to say Bret did too, and Bret doesn't get credit for it. Because if
Bret helped with Stone Cold, not going to deny that.
Stone Cold would never be Stone Cold without Bret Hart.
Yes,
down that hill. But
also, Shawn coming out drugged up or drunk, whatever he was, with the short shorts, borderline booty cutters.
I'm also very guilty of saying that Shawn Michaels and drugs is my favorite Shawn Michaels. I'll say that. But go on.
You know what? Mine's is not.
Oh, that's mine. Fucking 96, 97, 98, Shawn?
He was wilding. He was wilding out. He was wilding. But
the screwjob Shawn, but everything else was dope.
I found God Shawn was putting out bangers.
Better wrestling, better matches.
Much better wrestling.
Man, that's a whole different conversation because I was trying to explain to someone about like, yeah, you might have liked a wrestler at a certain point, but most wrestlers don't hit their prime till later in their career. I'm like, look at AJ Styles right now. Look at certain people. They're in their prime later in their career.
Yeah, of course.
Shawn was great in the 90s. He was still a great wrestler. But Shawn had his best matches in the 2000s against The Undertaker, against Randy.
Because he wasn't high.
And I feel like we've heard the story, the narrative. We watch A&E documentaries. We've seen the Shawn documentaries. I think he put a lot more pressure on himself earlier in the 90s, where I think in the second run, he was just having more fun.
Yeah, because I read his book, the latest one that came out, because he always felt like, he was such a smaller dude compared to other guys, so he had to try extra hard. So that it goes to what you're saying with the whole pressure thing. But like I said, him being a smaller guy, being able to do what he did and putting out bangers, it just shows his influence, and you can see his influence. He birthed AJ Styles, for God's sake.
He does have a large influence in the modern wrestling. I also think Bret helped usher in the Attitude Era, not just the Austin thing. I think for me, I'm like one of the seeds. There's a lot of seeds that were planted for the Attitude Era. DX was a seed. Austin 316 promo was a seed. The Austin Bret feud was a seed. I always say that one angle where Bret snapped after the cage match with Sid and pushed down Vince and referenced him as the owner and just went off on everybody was a seed of them going to a different type of wrestling than they were doing prior to that. Like they were getting a little bit more edgier. Bret turning heel was a big deal. And I don't think people discredit Bret turning heel a little bit because I'm like, who else had Canada and the United States against each other like that? The man was getting cheered in Canada and around the world and booed in the United States. Like this guy he told that America could, go down the toilet from coast to coast. Like he came there with a different attitude. Bret and the Hart Foundation came in there with a different attitude that was there before DX, that was there before Stone Cold really popped off, before The Rock cut his first catchphrase in the Nation of Domination. It was the Hart Foundation and Bret Hart, and that's why I'm like, yes, Shawn helped usher in the Attitude Era. I always say the shittiest thing that ever fucking happened was that Bret and Shawn low-key ushered in the Attitude Era, and they both were gone when the shit took off. Like that.
Yeah. But it was drugs and egos.
Yeah, it really was.
And Bret's
if you read Bret's book, he wasn't no angel either backstage. So like,
yeah. Bret screwed Bret. We all know that.
Whoa. But and I do
you, bro. You
My
know
thing
he
is,
did.
so listen, Shawn did influence a lot of modern wrestling. Also, he's backstage at NXT. He's influencing all this talent he's working with today that was influenced by Shawn Michaels, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Ciampa, the Singh brothers. My issue with the thing is, I think Shawn gets to directly has a lot more time to have directly influenced the modern core of wrestling. Well, I think Bret did it in a different way, where I think a lot of people look up to Bret, and there is two different styles. The more flamboyant, over-the-top super kick style that we see today is more influenced by a Shawn Michaels, without a doubt. And I feel like we see a lot more of that today than we see that other old school rugged wrestling. But when you see like a rugged wrestling match, when you see guys like FTR, when you see CM Punk wrestle, when you see Bryan Danielson wrestle, when you see the technical wrestlers wrestle, that's Bret Hart. That's not Shawn Michaels.
Oh, 100%. But I also want to say this, because I don't know why that tweet caught fire, because I tweeted it like 3 days prior before everybody started quote tweeting me on it. And a lot of people were saying the same thing, like, oh, this is the reason why wrestling is not the way it's supposed to be, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, yes, Shawn did influence, but people didn't see the bigger picture of what Shawn was doing and the storytelling that Shawn was having in his matches. And it goes back to a lot of time when people's like, oh, when people sometimes say Steph Curry ruined basketball. No, he didn't. Kids just want to shoot threes, but they don't understand that Steph Curry has handle. He can go to the basket. He can do other things. And a lot of people don't really understand the storytelling behind wrestling, and Shawn was so good at that. And when the people who do put it together, like AJ Styles, who's Shawn Michaels' birth, when they put it together, they become the best in the world.
Let me put it this way. We talked about it a little bit earlier. A really good, my favorite match for Full Gear was MJF versus Darby Allin.
Yeah.
If I look at an MJF, I don't sit there and be like MJF is influenced by Shawn Michaels. I don't see any Shawn Michaels in MJF, but I see some Bret Hart in them. I see the selling of the knee and the storytelling and the old school wrestling. But then I look at Darby and I see this guy doing crazy coffin drops. I'm like, that's Shawn Michaels. That's flamboyant. That's adding something to the story. I think both of them has equally influenced wrestling a lot. I just think saying Shawn is doing it more is kind of unfair, because Shawn had the opportunity to actually still wrestle for a very long time. Shawn had the opportunity to be there actively at the Performance Center to influence people directly. Look at Darby versus CM Punk. That was literally Bret Hart versus 1-2-3 Kid in the ring, like almost move for move.
Yeah, it was.
I think the older school, this is the thing maybe actually. I think the people that are still a little bit old school wrestling fans can watch Bret and they're influenced by him. I think a lot of the younger people are probably more influenced with Shawn, because a lot of the younger people were still watching Shawn when Shawn was having that.
100%.
A lot of the older people, a lot of the younger people never got to watch Bret in his prime, because Bret was done by 99, 2000. They got to see Shawn from 2000 to 2010.
Even though Shawn is my favorite, I will enjoy a Bret Hart match.
I think Bret Hart matches still hold up today. There's some Shawn matches I watch and I'm like, this doesn't work.
Anymore. Well, his match with Vince McMahon at WrestleMania is horrible.
We're not talking about that. I'm talking, go watch any Bret match and it will still hold up today. Like it's still a good wrestling match.
Because
some
it's
Shawn matches that don't make sense.
It's because it's the storytelling, and I'll give you that. But when it comes to the influence in the game, it's Shawn, baby. It's Shawn.
It's both of them. I'm not saying it's not Shawn. I think it is Shawn, but I also think Bret's just as much. I'm not saying it's because the thing that took me off of you, and I don't know what other people responded to. I didn't actually look at that. I probably should have looked at that before. I don't know what other people quoted and said, but it was the more than. You could have said that Shawn Michaels influenced a lot of people in modern history. I'm like, but I think Shawn Michaels influenced a lot of people more than Bret Hart. I'm like, why more than Bret Hart?
Because I had to get spicy with it. I had to get spicy with it because
I mean, it worked. I got a reaction. I don't even go on Twitter that often. I go on Twitter to creep. Sometimes I try to live tweet. It doesn't really do anything. I'm not a Twitter person. But even I responded. I barely respond to people. Sometimes I retweet shit without even reading it. I'm an idiot on Twitter. But like, then I'm like, why the fuck did I retweet that? That probably looks so weird. But like, I was like, what the, more than Bret? Like, why throw a shot? Why was
it's because we like the Bret Hart fans are so mean to Shawn.
He's like, I like Shawn. I'm not even mean to Shawn. I like Shawn. I just like Bret Hart better, and it's not because he's Canadian. I was a little Canadian kid. It just, I'm like, once again, like I said earlier, I'm a big storyline character guy. That doesn't matter a lot to me, but I love watching a good match as much as anyone else. I think we had a lot of good matches. But if you look back in the day,
Time out real quick. Yeah, this match between Charlotte and Becky is legit getting more like cover.
That's what I'm saying. There's a point that it should maybe be the main event.
You can argue that.
Yeah.
Because the way that they're showing this storyline right now, and you're watching the vignette, it's top tier right now. This is the match of the night.
And honestly, credit to both women because they went out there and did interviews and they built their matchup better than Roman was on Jimmy Fallon. He barely built the matchup. Like these women have been building this match. They've been talking their shit. And the best thing is like we can't tell if it's bullshit or not. Like realistically, both could still be the bestest of friends backstage and they're playing all of us. We don't fucking know. But if they are, they're doing a great job at it. I don't know Becky. I've never really talked to Becky. I haven't had a conversation with Becky. I'm cool with Charlotte's fucking Ashley, not Charlotte. Ashley Flair is one of the nicest, coolest motherfucking people I fucking know in the world. Literally just had a conversation with her yesterday, exclusive. We're just shooting the shit, joking about something she said in the show, like, and even to her, I just said, listen, I don't know if the fuck's real or not, but I just want to say you've literally gotten us fans more invested in your guys' match.
Yeah, this is.
I'm like, I know you guys are gonna kill it. And she's like, thank you. She didn't tell me anything, but she said thank you after, and I was like, I just want you to know that whatever you guys are doing, I don't know what it is, but you got.
But this ties up to this whole episode that we just did together.
Yeah,
storytelling, build, anticipation, episodic feel. This is what we're talking about when it comes to professional wrestling. Behind everything that Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart did for the industry, when they got into the ring, you wanted to watch it because there was stuff behind, there was anticipation behind it.
Yeah, 100%. And we're still talking about Shawn and Bret. Why? Because the tension they had with each other. We compare Shawn. You could have brought up any other wrestler. You brought up Bret because, and I noticed this too when I make my posts on my page. I'm like, why is it every time I post Shawn, I have to post Bret? I'm like, because for some odd reason, no matter how hard we try, those two will always be tied to each other. And I don't understand fucking why, but you think of Shawn, you think of Bret. You think of Bret, you think of Shawn. There's always this undeniable competition between them and their fans that will never go away because it's like Shawn and Bret. I think Punk was on the AEW Restricted podcast not too long ago, and he was putting over how Bret's better than Shawn in his opinion. And then I'm like, I know some people are going to disagree with this because there was this narrative in the 2000s with especially the younger fans that were born in like 98, 99 and whatever that looked at Shawn as the GOAT because he was still there. And that's how he was portrayed on TV. And, Shawn's a GOAT. Shawn's a GOAT. I'm like, but you weren't even alive when the rest of the guys were around. So how do you make that fucking claim? I'm like, I wasn't alive for a lot of the people too, but I went back and watched it. I was like, Shawn is really good. But really, was Shawn as good as Flair? Was Shawn as good as Savage? I don't as a total package. I don't fucking know. But Shawn is one of the GOATs. Bret's one of the GOATs. But we don't sit here and compare Shawn to Savage or Shawn to Hogan.
No.
We go Shawn and Bret and Shawn.
Because everybody needs their Joker and everybody needs their Batman.
Yeah. I think Shawn said that one time. And then when the Bret Hart Appreciation Night, every good hero needs a villain.
Yeah.
I just happen to be yours.
But that's the truth though, because is what we care about. We care about good guys versus bad guys. And sometimes your good guy is somebody else's bad guy.
And do you see what's happening now? Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch are becoming their own Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart for each other.
And I'm okay with that.
They're becoming their Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart for each other. And there's nothing wrong about that. And honestly, that's what it's all about. But yeah, literally, I said it's right here. I was talking to her yesterday, and I was like, looking forward to Sunday, though. Definitely made it all more interesting for the fans, though. I know you're going to kill her. She's like, thank you. I'm like, I don't know, because we're talking about, she went on the Ringer podcast with Evan Mack and the Shoemaker guy, and was like, no disrespect, I just don't remember. Dave, I think? Dave Shoemaker?
Dave Shoemaker, yeah.
They went on their podcast, and they're talking
Kaz is on that one, too.
He is, but he wasn't on this episode specifically.
Okay.
It was Evan, and I don't even know if it was David. It might have been someone else, but it was Evan for sure, and they had Charlotte on, and literally talked about how it's funny how wrestling fans, and this also goes for Bret, this also goes for Shawn back in the day, and it was a lot harder back then than it is now. She's like, it's crazy how people will believe anything they hear because they know Charlotte Flair, the character, and it becomes believable because Charlotte would do that, but they don't know Ashley. If they knew Ashley, half the stuff that's being said, wouldn't you'd be like, that's not true? But everyone's like, oh, Charlotte Flair would do that. Oh, Charlotte Flair probably is different. But she's like, that's Charlotte Flair. That's not Ashley. She's like,
And you know what's funny? I didn't even know her name was Ashley until today.
It's not Ashley. Like, Ashley's a nice person. Like, Ashley, she's like, but she's like, Becky can go out there and say all this stuff about me, and people are gonna believe it because my character. Like,
Yeah.
the reason we had that conversation is because I told her how good that podcast interview. I'm like, out of all the interviews you've done before this pay-per-view, that was your best interview. Because I'm like that was my favorite one of you. Because I'm like, I've seen Becky do a bunch. She's done some good ones, but that was your best one because you really told the different narrative that really makes Becky shit look like Becky's just making shit up. You're just not doing it because you're like, I don't even have any of these issues. It's all made up. At one point, they're like, do you have beef with Nia? She's like, I'll FaceTime Nia right now. We're still best friends. She's like, you hit your friends harder. That's all that happened. Like, and I'm like, oh, like she's really letting it out here. Like that Becky's talking a lot of shit just to build this match. Like there is no backstage. I don't have. She's like, what? I'm wrong because I like to stand up for myself sometimes. I just think things should be a certain way. And I'm like, and then she dropped a line at the end, which I never heard before. But when we were talking, she said it was a Joker reference, which is weird. I'm a big Batman fan, so I thought I would have heard it. But she's like, I don't think it was in the movie. I'm like, oh, she's like, and it's an old phrase that a lot of people know, but I didn't know, I guess. But she was like, sugar and salt are the same color. They look the same.
That was deep.
But you know, just because you see Charlotte and Ashley and they look the same doesn't mean that she's all these things you heard about is Charlotte Flair doing. It's Ashley, man. It looks the same. We look the same. It's two different people. Who I am backstage is someone else. Who I am in that ring is Charlotte. You're hearing Becky saying, "Well, she's hard to work with. She went into business by herself. I don't trust her." And you're thinking about Charlotte Flair. You're not thinking about Ashley. You're like, "Oh, that makes sense. Charlotte seems like she's cocky and she's hard to trust." Blah blah. But Ashley's not like that. I can say, to break the fourth wall here, for the last 5-6 years that she's followed my page and supported me, I've got to know Ashley. This woman has responded to me on the nights of some of her biggest matches. WrestleMania 32. Another WrestleMania. I'll DM her the day of WrestleMania saying some shit like, yo, good luck tonight. You're going to kill it. Da, da, da. And she will take the time to be like, thank you, Justin, blah, blah. That's Ashley. That's not Charlotte. She's a full-blown heel. That's Ashley. Ashley's cool, man. So.
And honestly, I've heard from people that I know that worked with her, they say good things about her, man.
Yeah, she's cool, man. She's chill. I don't know but check out that. But yeah, the Shawn Bret debate, once again, I think we hit the nail on the head at the beginning when we said all opinions are subjective and whatnot. It did trigger me a little bit because I'm like, why did you have to say more than Bret? It was just a more than Bret. Because I didn't disagree that Shawn has influenced a lot of modern wrestling, without a doubt.
But I just feel that people say it's like in a negative light that he's influenced it. Because I don't like arguing online because I just don't do that. Mm-hmm. I try not to, at least. And the way people took it was that it was a negative condensation of him, what he done, how wrestling is for many people. Because, oh yeah, he has, because everybody super kicks. No. It's the flash, it's the flamboyancy that we see in professional wrestling for a lot of people. That's what I was trying to say, but
I agree with you there, because I think what Shawn was doing still could work today. It's just that people have taken what Shawn was doing and they've evolved it into a little bit more, and that's the stuff where it's like, well, the way Shawn did was Shawn would still ground wrestle. Shawn would still wrestle.
Yeah.
Every now and then Shawn would pull out a moonsault or he'd pull out a dive over the rope, and his super kick was his finisher. Like, he had the flamboyance. He was the guy that back in like 1995, people would be like, he's ahead of his time. Because he was ahead of his time, because not everybody was doing it. The issue is that the way the negative connotation comes is that everybody wants to be Shawn Michaels. So now everybody's doing it, and now it doesn't hit the same.
Exactly. And another person that a lot of people kind of blame is Amazing Red. He's my coach. And he talks about it. He's just like, yo, listen, I know the couple things that I did weren't best for wrestling, but I'm trying to like legit help out the future thing and understand you can do that flashy stuff, but it has to be done at the right time.
I want to have you back on because this is now, and you train, right? So you said you've been training.
Yeah.
Because I think I have never done that, but I don't. The only thing I know about wrestling is I know nothing, but I feel like I know some stuff. And I think the conversation now is that Shawn has influenced wrestling in a different way, but the thing that Shawn still had, and I'm sure Red still had when he was doing it, was they knew when to do certain things. They understood the psychology. Where psychology is the word of the day, right? Well, the thing now is there's a lack of psychology and people just doing it for the pop or the spot.
Exactly.
And to do it for the pop in the spot at a random moment where it's unnecessary. Like, hey, we're gonna do this thing where I jump on you from here just because it'll look cool. Why are we gonna do it here at this particular moment? Oh, just because it'll pop the crowd. But why? That's what's missing. Like, is there a reason for you to take that risk right now? Like, is this you being desperate? Is this you trying to do something that's going to catch me off my game because I didn't see it coming, or are you just doing it for the sake of doing it to get it in the match, for the sake of the pop of the moment?
When I heard, I know we got to go soon. When I heard, so Amazing Red, the last House of Glory show, Amazing Red went up against Will Ospreay, and
the match,
and fucking masterpiece. And I'm not saying because it's Amazing Red, but it was legit one of the best matches of the year. And they were going through the match, and I'm hearing him say things, and then like he's telling Will like, nah, we're gonna do this. We're gonna move it here, move this, and let's slow it down a little bit, and let's do this. And when you saw the final part, you're like, holy shit. Because a lot of people don't notice he's helped Sasha Banks out a lot. Yeah. Like a lot of her matches, her main event matches that she's been Red had a hand on that.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, I've watched it like 5 times already. Watched Sasha Bianca. That was a story. There was a story.
Yeah. And
there was no meaningless move. Every move meant something.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people take what Shawn's done and then just throw it all into the ring and like, okay, I'm gonna do a bunch of super kicks and this and that and not really say anything. But he was telling you most 90% of the time he was telling a story. And I will tell you some of his matches that don't hold up till this day, like you said. I get you. You're right about that. But it was still a storytelling within that flamboyancy that he was doing. So yeah, and to go, I get what you're saying, but Shawn is my man.
I think they both influence modern wrestling a lot. I think Shawn's influence is more evident and obvious. You can see it. It's like in your face. I think Bret's influence is there, but it's a lot more low key.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said earlier, like when I topped off, I'm like, you can tell the wrestlers that were more influenced from Bret, and you can tell the wrestlers that were from Shawn. You can see them, like you can see the Punks and the FTRs and the MJFs and the wrestlers that were probably studying Bret Hart tapes. You can see the more flamboyant guys, maybe like a Sammy Guevara and others that were probably watching Shawn Michaels and Guerrero and more of the luchador high flying styles. I think they both equally influence modern day wrestling a lot. It was just the more than that came at me, but I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah,
it was just more than. It was the more than Bret. I'm like, I don't like. Listen, Shawn is a huge influence. Bret's a huge influence. I told you, like it goes Bret and Shawn for me. That's the order it always goes. It's always Bret and then Shawn. But like, it was the more than. I think they both influence wrestling a lot. And
of course,
negative or positive, like we're still watching. We still enjoy it. And like I said,
still love it.
Wrestling's thriving. The matches are great. I see great wrestling matches on a daily basis, not even a weekly basis, on a daily basis these days. There was probably that Fatal 4 was probably a great match, and I didn't get to watch it. Probably it was probably a great match. So we get too much wrestling. Let's start focusing on these characters and stories somewhere. Let's start telling some more stories. Get me invested. That Punk feud someone longer than a month. How about that? But other than that, I think we're good. Is there anything else you want to add?
Nah, man. Thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. I love what you've been doing for so long. You're a vital part of like the Instagram wrestling community in general, man. Like vital at its.
I don't feel like it sometimes, so it's great to hear that. Like I feel like it's like losing its luster. I don't know.
It never does, because if somebody gets tired of it, they're still gonna go back.
Yeah. And you know what? For me, like I used to say this back in the day, that I'm like, I used to go on like certain websites and forums when I was a kid. And I remember going on them, like these like WrestleZone forum or Backstage Wrestling or like Dear God Wrestling was like this video game thing, but like I remember them so vividly, like the e-feds on MSN groups. I'm like, I want to be that for a group of people. Like, hey, you remember the Wrestling Classic? We still like fight in the comment section. Like that's where we're at.
Nah, it's but the thing about it, one thing I will give you is that you took that thing and now you're doing other things with it.
I'm trying.
Like YouTube, podcast, your clothing line, like all of that is you're doing more. You're growing the brand, and
I appreciate it.
I always respect people who take one thing and then grow it into something bigger. And
that's the same way. That's why I popped when I saw in the House of Glory show. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah,
we're making moves, and I like seeing people that I know really give a fuck make moves. Like they're actually they're trying. You're making. When I saw you doing, I'm like, oh, Wilkins out there. I'm like, I pop every time I see your videos and you're shooting about some shit. When you're making your protein shake or some shit, like this guy's shooting about some shit. Someone else saw that. I was like, yeah, we need this guy. This is great. I'm happy for that, you know?
Yeah, and I'm happy for you when you do your thing. Like it's just respect and love right now, man. let's stop jerking each other off right now because
you're welcome on the show whenever you want. I want
Yeah.
obviously because we talked about the whole Shawn Brett thing, but if you ever want to come back, if there's any time you're like, I really want to talk about something else, or you have a hot take and you want to come on here, you're more than welcome. Whether it's just me or we have another co-host, like, you're more than welcome to come on here.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Yes, something to promote, just hop back on. It was a pleasure. Thank you. I know you got to get going. You got to catch a train. I need to edit this and throw it up and take a shower because I came from the gym and sat in my sweat. But other than that, I appreciate it. Keep doing the thing. Everyone, check out Jobber Tears podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out House of Glory. I know most of you are wrestling fans. You already know what House of Glory is, but if you don't, man, it's one of the coolest indie promotions out on the East Coast. One of the most popular. Amazing Red has had a hand in training a lot of your favorites that you watch on television every week today, and you don't even know it. From Sasha Banks to Private
Ronda Rousey,
like and obviously I'm an old school TNA fan, so like I know who the fuck Amazing Red was because that's where I got my first exposure to him and found a bunch of other shit that he's done. So I've been a fan of him for a very long time. He's like an unsung hero to the industry if you're like a little bit, and that's a whole other topic. I was about to say the term casual fan, but that's been a hot topic all week. So that's
man, we need to
talk about that again, about the whole casual fan thing. But for the casual fans, if you don't know who Amazing Red is, like, go check him out. And yeah, that's about it, man. Anything else?
Man. Thank you so much. I will see you soon. Are you going to Survivor Series? Survivor Series?
No, I am not. My next goal is Royal Rumble. Then if not, then Mania.
Mania, I'm gonna see you.
Mania, I'll see you then.
Because I have some plans for Dallas.
Let me know. Maybe I can get involved.
Yeah.
We'll keep doing the thing, guys. We'll see you all next time. Ooh, yeah, dig it.